What's up, guys? I'm glad you guys are connecting with me. I just wanted to make a video expressing how I feel about things, the questions I ask, and the research that I came up with. Well, not me, but the research I've compiled. And this is just my truth, my perspective, and I hope to inspire anybody who feels the same way or whoever resonates with me. Feel free to take away anything you don't like or add to it or expand on it. I just hope for people to expand on this and be inspired. And this is just my perspective and my truth. So thank you so much, guys, for tuning in, and let's get this started. So, consciousness slash love is the universal language. To me, consciousness represents awareness. Awareness expands with your capacity to love, know who you are. This love expresses itself in patterns of creation and trinities. We know this as the Fibonacci sequence and 369, which some know that Tesla rediscovered and used that for Wi-Fi and electricity. And the patterns of creation is more known in nature in the spiral, as energy moves in a spiral motion. All right, let's get to the next slide. Okay, in this slide we have the original Trinity, which are all expressions of spirit, and we call this the OG Trinity right here. So the first is spirit. Spirit is infinite awareness, has no form or shape, and it cannot perceive itself. So spirit doesn't even know who it is. So spirit asks the question, who am I? We know this as vibration, force, from Star Wars, may the force be with you, or seeds. A seed has unlimited potential, and that's like spirit with an infinite awareness. The second is the soul. The soul is the vehicle in which to experience spirit, to experience itself through energy. We know this as light, let there be light, and flowers. The seed turns into a flower, which flowers produce colors, are colorful. So the soul is a very colorful piece of energy. We also get the colors and emotions from the soul. And the last is the body. The body is the vehicle for the soul's experience and path towards spirit's purpose. The spirit uses the soul to expand through the physical. The spirit's purpose is to know itself. Who am I? And the body answers, I am. And this is represented through matter, love, or the fruit that comes from the flower, which is also the tree of life. The soul, we see this expressed in the world as electricity, all the colors, which colors emit a certain vibration as well. Each color has a certain frequency that it gives off. We know the soul as elements, particles. And my analogy, I like to look at it as like when you put on a sock, or waves, which represent time. The body, we see this expressed in the world through biology, through mathematics, through music, and the instruments in the world that play music. These are all the physical manifestations of spirit. That's why when people who follow biology, they feel like they're closer to God or spirit because they recognize spirit through biology. Or people who are mathematics or geniuses in math, they recognize spirit through the equations. Or people who love music, they could feel the source or spirit through the when they play instruments, and they feel like they're in another space, and that's because spirit is realized through all those and expressed through all those. All right, next slide. All right, so the elements, we have the elements here, which is I'm gonna call God in the flesh or heaven on earth. So the mind or spirit, it represented itself through air, the element of air. The emotion and soul, it represented itself through the element of water. And the body, the physical, represented itself through fire. So air, water, and fire, all three came together to form a trinity called earth. The spirit uses the soul. The spirit acts as the question and uses the soul to find the answer. We're gonna use an analogy here. So the spirit is the air, is everywhere, is the sky. It uses rain, the water, to fall down onto earth. And the body wants the body to light the flame to bring that heat or air back up to rise. Because heat rises. And the whole point is to know itself again back in air. So that's just my little analogy. And all that is manifested through earth. So the first trinity here is air, which is represented mind, spirit. Air is everywhere you need it to breathe, to live, and that's the spirit. The second one is water. That's represented also in emotions, soul. When you cry, you tear up, etc. And fire, which is the body. And all that is manifested, all three are manifested on earth, because earth is air, water, and fire. It's all of it. So all that is represented by the earth. The 3, 6, 9, 12. All right. So this is the trinity within the human. We know these as the 12 systems within the human body. I'm just going to be talking mainly about the organs here and how that's represented by each element. So the first element is air. And we're going to talk about the nervous system. The nervous system is pretty much your brain, your mind. It controls your senses, the sensory outputs, and it's connected to your spine. So your brain and your spine is pretty much like the control center of your whole body. The second one is the respiratory system. Air is also represented by the respiratory system in the body. And last, the immune system. All three have in common. All three organs / systems need air to function properly. Without air, all these functions, all these organs stop working and they expire. So that's how spirit is reflected in the air. And as air is the most important element that we have. The second element is going to be water. We know water. So I need some water. Sheesh. Water is represented in the circulatory system, the excretory system, and the lymphatic system. They all have the same thing in common. The circulatory system circulates water throughout the body. You know, it like moves it. It moves water and blood. The excretory system is where your kidneys are at, and that filters. It filters the stuff, all the liquids in your body. And water acts as a filter as well. And the lymphatic system is where your lymph nodes are, where the energy goes to. And emotions, when you're angry, your lymph nodes swell up. So that's how emotions are reflected and expressed through water and the lymphatic system inside the human body. The third element is fire. This is the people's favorite here. So fire is represented in the human body by the endocrine system, which, I think it has to do with like adrenaline, fight or flight, the reproductive system, and the digestive system. All these have fire. So fire represents like the passion, the drive, the willpower. For the digestive system, we could see that your stomach has acid, and then the acid is what digests the food so that you could eat more, so you could digest and turn to dunk. But it comes down like ashes to ashes, dust to dust. The food that you eat, it uses the fire in your body to digest it. In the reproductive system, we know this as like your organs down there, like the sexual organs, the passion, the love. That's represented by the fire. So, um, last we have the earth. That's represented in the muscular system of the human body, the skeletal system, and the skins and cells. The muscular system, each muscle in itself is an organ, and each organ is alive in its own. The skeleton is like the axis of the human body, is what holds everything together. So the earth holds all the elements together, just like it holds the human body together. And the skins and cells, the skin is the biggest organ on the human body, the largest organ, and that's earth represents like regeneration. Every day, you have skin cells on your body that die, but they regenerate. So earth is where you reincarnate and regenerate and experience all of the elements. So with the air also represents the mental, as again like the brain, your senses, your thinking. The air is the powerhouse, the network of organs that allow breath. In the beginning, there was the word, and that's like the breath to manifest. Water represents the emotions, the feelings, the baggage, the waste. Your kidneys gets rid of waste, your past lives. Fire represents your spirit, sex, passion, your willpower, your hormones, excitement. And earth represents rebirth. If you break bones, that's your, muscular system. Skeletal system. Whatever, it's all the same. Represents. So we have earth, it represents rebirth, regeneration, movement, posture. And it's all the elements together. On this slide, we also could look at these four elements and equate them with the zodiac signs. And it's like I said, everything's connected. I'm just saying how it relates with the zodiac. If you like to follow the zodiac signs, each zodiac has an element they follow, and you could also see that here, and it matches with the organs in the body. So like Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, you guys are represented by the fire sign, and that's shown here. Earth, I'm just coming, saying off the top of the head. You got like Taurus, Pisces, Virgo, I think, for earth. And then water, you got Cancer, I think Cancer, Pisces, and another one. But you know what I'm trying to say. The zodiacs are reflected here as well, also with the signs, and it matches the systems of the organs. Air, you have Libra, Gemini, and Aquarius on the air signs as well. And they're mental people. They're in their head a lot of the times, and they have to speak their truth, and that's represented by the breath. The Cancer is, they're emotional people, and they're affected by their emotions and water and the stuff that happens to them. Earth sign people are very grounded, and they don't like change much. They like to, kind of be in one place, don't like to move a lot. They're just grounded. And then fire people are like very passionate people, like to be not the center of attention, but they like to be known. I am here. And these are just archetypes. They don't define any one person, just ways to understand yourself, simply to transcend it and create something new. So I just wanted to add the zodiacs, and I could go deeper into that, but I don't want to. Okay, on this slide, we have just the importance of the number 12. So 12 represents natural order, the 12 universal laws. You're not bound by this. It's just so you could understand why we created these laws so that we can transcend them. So the importance of 12, some people know this as the 12 essence tribes, or the 12 tribes in the Bible, or the root races, the 12 nodes on the planet, the 12 stargates, or Some people know it as the 12 strands of DNA who go into that. Some people also know this as the 12 tree grid, also known as the universal tree of life or the 12 chakras. Usually every religion has some kind of tree that they get knowledge from. You could look into that. I'm not going to go into all the trees now, but every religion has a tree that bears fruit and where you get your knowledge from. So that's represented by the 12 tree grid. We have the 12 constellations, also represented by the cycles within the human body. You know, it takes woman, we go through cycles 9 months for a baby to be born. The moon goes through cycles with full moons, that is represented in the woman's menstrual cycle with her periods. That is a direct representation of the moon and the moon cycles. We have the 12 zodiacs and the 12 months of the year to show how it all relates with our human body. We have the 12 organs in the human body, also known as instruments. We have the 12 rays, or some people know these as the 12 dimensions, the 12 timelines or spheres of reality. The 12 rays are mainly the colors, but I'm going to get into that later. And then we have the 12 practices of self-awareness, which I call knowledge of self. But this is just to show how 12 all connects. So on this slide, I'm going to be talking about the 12 dimensions, also known as the basis of reality. You could approach this from many different perspectives, but today I'm going to focus mainly on the physical and how it relates to the earth in the human body. You could attack it from the crown down or the root up. It doesn't matter which direction, because the crown and the root are both the beginning and the end. There's no separation. So when we talk about dimensions, people seem to get very confused. So just from my perspective, another way to understand dimensions are just different perspectives and systems that occupy the same space. For example, you have like a kidney in your body and it follows its own systems and rules that governs it, but it's inside of the human body, which is governed by the solar system and its rules from Earth, which the solar system is inside a system of a galaxy that has planets that is governed by. So we're all in the same space, but we have different perspectives of that same space. So that's how I understand dimensions. There's nothing separate from you. I'm going to start from the crown. So the first dimension, we could look at it as the crown chakra: unity, self, truth, love, cell. And at the top, that cell divides itself. Also, what spirit does, it splits. So as you can see, when we get to the brain, spirit creates the brain and it's split. So the brain reflects this as there's two sides, there's two halves to a brain: left side, right brain. Even though the brain is one, it split itself because it copies spirit. So the brain, how it works is like duality, opposite. The left side of the brain uses the right side of the body, and the left side of the right side of the brain uses the right side of the brain uses the left, and vice versa. So they're opposites, So your left brain sees through the right eye, and your right brain sees through the left eye. So that's a representation of the dualistic matter of your brain and how it copies spirit when it splits. But the brain is still whole, is still one. We're just taught to perceive it as separation. So that's just showing how the brain also split itself into left side, right side, just like the original spirit / cell did in the beginning, like a Vesica Pisces. And then it becomes the second dimension, which is known as duality or polarity, desires, and creativity. So your brain is where your creative capacity happens, right here, and that's represented by your third eye. Your third eye represents the projections, your insights, what you see, what you perceive based on what you think from your crown. So the crown / spirit is so important to what you perceive in the world. The third dimension is concept, space, matter, and form, and we know this as our voice. What we speak gives rise to form. There's power in your voice. So that's represented in your throat chakra. If you like bite your tongue, or if you don't speak your truth, that will affect your heart. It will affect how you feel. And that's represented by the fourth dimension, the experience, the pillars, the cycles. Your heart has a heartbeat. Your heart is directly powered by the force of the crown of spirit. So everyone has their own heartbeat and their own force in which they march to. And um, that directly affects their experience here in the fourth dimension. The fifth dimension, we have neutrality, perspectives, and love, and that's represented by your stomach. So these are all perspectives. You can look at perspectives as the different types of food you eat. What you eat affects your stomach and what comes out of it. This could be food for thought, or this could be actual food that you eat. Both are going to affect how you feel, and it's going to affect your perspectives. And that's represented by your solar plexus. Sixth dimension, we have potentialities in the archetype dimension. That's represented by the sacral. This is where things are generated. You generate things here in your sac, whether it's like the fire for food to burn it down so it could become feces, or you could build a baby in your sacral, and that's known as the architect. And the sixth dimension is also represented by the two hands, the two arms on the human body. And that's where you create. The architect builds. So that's represented by your hands, where you build stuff as well. And down here we have the seventh dimension, which is mastery, mind, balance, love. If you notice, love is the root and it's the beginning, the crown, because all is love. So when you give birth to a child, that child is pure love. It's a representative of you. It's a reflection of you. And that child helps you master your emotions. People who have children usually say their children is a pain in the butt or gives them so much flack, but they love them so much. The point is to learn from your creations, learn from your reflections, because they are another version of you, and that's represented in the seventh chakra. And then the eighth is the torus field, which is around everybody's body, which is we know that as the matrix, the network, or we look at it as the whole world, the globe. So that's everybody's electromagnetic field that we have around us. We could also look at the tree, because we come from the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom. So the human represents the animal kingdom and the trees represent the plant kingdom. Both the same. They both have the same function. We're both the tree of life. So approaching from the tree, we could look at the root chakra as the minerals in the dirt, comes up, divides itself into the arms, duality, splits, creates concepts, starts producing flowers, which is the potentiality, neutrality, and then fruit, which is seventh dimension, which is the apples, just the stuff that plants, the vegetables and the fruits that we eat. And that's some food for thought right there. So another perspective we could add to this is we have the 7 chakras right here, or, that's just a concept. The 7 energy systems within the body that directly relate also to the 7 continents of the world. And I'm going to explain that too. Because we're all one, we're all connected. There's no separation between the human and the earth. So the crown chakra is represented by the spirit of Antarctica. So Antarctica represents the crown chakra. The third eye, the perception, is represented by the vision of South America. So that's represented by the third eye in the human. The throat chakra is represented by the voice of North America. That's why in America, they say, let your voice be heard, land of the free, home of the brave, because there's power in your expression, in what you say, your truth. The heart is represented by the heartbeat of Europe. If you've noticed, that's where the that's where the queen is, in the heart. They have a lot of the money, the gold, or whatever you want to call it. So that's represented by the heart chakra. Then in the solar plexus, you have the being of Asia. So Asia is represented by the stomach, where everything is digested. Next is the creative axis of Oceania. That's represented by the sacral chakra, where things are generated. And last or first is the root and power of Africa. Africa has all the minerals and all the resources of the land, and that's represented by the crown. So we have the crown chakra, Antarctica, where things are frozen, but ice represents information. So when it melts like rain, that comes down into drops, rain is information, comes down and nourishes Africa, the roots. And then Africa comes back up and nourishes the rest of the human body or the world. So it's all related in that context. And that's just a way to look at it, just a perspective. So the only way to reach heaven, your crown, is by your roots. The roots. You have to know where you come from to know where you are going, and you have to know where you've been to know where you come from. It's all the same. So here in the 12 dimensions, we have to remember that the first dimension down here is the same as the first dimension on top, as the crown, because the origin is the same as the end is always the same as the origin. So this is just a change of perspective by looking at it from the bottom up. So if we look at it like as everything as a reflection, the crown is the root, the sacral is a reflection of the third eye, the throat is a reflection of the stomach, the solar plexus, and it all comes together in the heartbeat, in the heart. So everything is a reflection of the one, and it all comes together with your heart. So that's just bringing it together in that, because I'm not trying to create separation here. I'm trying to show you how it all connects and unites. Since we're here on this slide, I might as well talk about the planets and how they relate within our bodies as well, because what's outside of you is within you. All right, so at the crown chakra, we could also say that this is the planet of Neptune, which represents transformation. Then here at the third eye, we have Uranus, which is your beliefs. Here in the throat chakra, we have Mercury, which is the planet of communication. So that's represented by your voice. In the heart chakra, we have the planet of Venus, and that is has to do with love / relationships in your heart. We have Earth, which is represented by the stomach, the solar plexus. Earth is where everything comes to get digested, to get experienced, and that's represented by your stomach. We have the sacral, which is also represented by Earth as well, because this is where things are generated. Here on Earth is where new stuff is generated. So Earth and Venus are very much related in terms of love, but it's all one. And then at the root, we have Mars, which is our will, our willpower, our action. Then down our ankles, our knees, we have, I believe, Saturn, which represents our paths, our choices that we choose, because your knees represents bending and flexibility. So these are your decisions, your paths, your choices. And then we have at your feet Jupiter, which is your purpose. The bottom of your feet is your soul. Your soul purpose is represented by Jupiter at your feet, the paths you walked. And that could also be represented by your past, your ancestors, the steps and paths you have already walked to be where you are now. That's represented by Jupiter. And Pluto represents death, transformation, rebirth. So if you look at the orbit of Pluto, you can see how it orbits very funny. It does its own little orbit. It doesn't really follow a certain cycle. So that's represented by death, rebirth, or change. So I just wanted to add the planets into our system of into the body organs as well, so you can relate the planets and the continents all to yourself. All right, here we have the 7 universal laws of the universe. And this is just so you can understand yourself more. All this is to know yourself. Try not to look at what other people are doing. Try to use this and apply it to your own life and how you think. So the first law, which is the only law that really matters, is the law of mind, the law of mentalism, or the law of spirit, which is all is one. There is no separation from anything you see, because in the beginning, source is all, is one, and it separated itself. So energy cannot be destroyed or created, only transformed. So the second law is the law of correspondence. You project what you think, and that's represented by your third eye. Your projections, what you see in the world, is a reflection of what you think and how it makes you feel. The third law is the law of vibration. What you speak comes to be. What you say manifests. So that's called the law of vibration, and that's represented by your throat. The fourth law is the law of rhythm. You move according to the force you generate. So that is represented by your heart. If no one had a heartbeat, you wouldn't be able to move. Everybody moves according to their beat of their heart. So that's the law of rhythm. I always say, move according to your own beat, your own rhythm. Don't try to copy other people's heartbeats, because you won't find happiness there. You are created to move according to your own force, your own love. The fifth law is the law of cause and effect. Every action has a reaction, and that is represented by your stomach. For example, what you eat in your mouth from your throat, what you put in your mouth is going to have an effect on your stomach, and that's just another reflection of cause and effect. Every action has a reaction. So that could be food for thought, could affect your stomach. When you look at something you don't see, you could go, man, I feel sick to my stomach. So that's all represented in cause and effect. The sixth law is the law of polarity. The mind creates an opposite to learn about itself. And that's also the law of duality. So that's like the sacral, where babies are generated. We create versions of ourselves to learn more about what we could do and more about ourselves. So the mind creates an opposite to learn about itself. Also, the mind, when it's free, always seems to create an enemy where there is none. So that's how the mind works. And the seventh law, which again is the first law, is the law of generation. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transmuted and transformed. That's the root of all our problems. There is nothing new under the sun. Everything that we're experiencing is just a transformed version of everything we've been through in the past. And our whole point is to understand the why we are here, and try not to change the past, but to learn from it, which therefore transforms your mind, your mental. So this is just some basic laws to understand yourself some more. And another way to look at this is the first law, which I say is love. The second is light. The third is love. The fourth is light. The fifth is love. So what I'm saying is, love is a feeling, and then the light is a projection. Vibration's a feeling, and the rhythm's a projection. Number 5 is a feeling. Number 6 is a projection. And number 7 is a feeling. So that's just to show the balance between light and love, between the 7 laws. Again, just a perspective. On this slide, we have the 7 spirits. I'm going to mainly attack this again from the body perspective, not the mental or the emotional too much. But the 7 spirits just coincide again with the law of the universes. A lot of people know this as the 7 sins, or the 7, what are those? The 7 virtues. But I'm just going to explain them straight up. The first spirit we have, remember, spirit is all. So these are all different emotions these are the different spirits that make you feel some kind of way, because spirit is one. There's really no division between these spirits. So the first spirit is the spirit of lust, addiction, that we must turn into the spirit of purity. And that's at the root of all our issues, which is the crown. What we think about affects us in our purity. So a lot of people know this as maybe like sex addictions, or the lack of sex. There has to be a balance between all these spirits. The second spirit is the spirit of wrath slash rage. And we must turn this spirit into patience, which is represented by the sacral chakra. When you have a baby, you have to wait 9 months for that baby to be born, and you go through a lot of experiences during that wait. So that's also represented by the second spirit. The third spirit is the spirit of greed, avarice, and that has to be transmuted into generosity, and that's represented by the stomach. People usually, if you eat a lot, you hurt your stomach, and that's usually because you take so much. You're greedy. Stop being so greedy. Or if you don't eat enough, you'll get super skinny. So you got to find that balance. The fourth one is the spirit of envy, jealousy, and that's represented by your heart. We must transmute that into kindness in order to find balance and coherence. So, if you have a heavy heart, if you're looking at someone and you're sad, or if you don't understand why someone has more money than you, that affects your heart, your feelings. Be you. The fifth is the spirit of gluttony slash waste. We must transmute this into the spirit of discipline. And that is your voice. Again, this could be viewed as your food. Do you eat a lot? Food goes in your mouth. Or do you talk too much? Or do you waste your words and not say enough? You must have discipline in knowing your truth and what you're saying. So that's represented by your voice. The sixth spirit is the spirit of laziness slash discouragement. And we must transmute this into diligence. And that's represented by your third eye. That's your projections. So a lot of people get discouraged or mad at what they see, what's projected. However, everything that you see is projected comes from your own mind. So you must have patience and diligence, knowing that what you think will manifest if you have diligence and patience and wait. Unless you're not thinking good stuff, then you're not going to be happy with what you create. And that comes down to the spirit of pride slash self-importance. And that must be transmuted into humility, being humble. The one who is humble knows the truth. You don't need to show anything or be anything, because you already are pure love. And that's represented by the crown. And that's the most important, in my opinion, the most important spirit is being humble and knowing who you are. Because in that knowing, you don't have to be anything else but you. So these are just the 7 spirits. And like I said, you could attack these from so many different perspectives, but I'm going to keep it simple and just go from the root to the crown. And these are the 7 spirits. Remember, if any of these spirits or mindsets are out of balance, then this creates disease or dis-ease. Disease or dis-ease is also known as energy that cannot expand freely. So energy that keeps recycling or is reused for the same purpose creates disharmony or disease. I appreciate you watching this video. Hopefully it inspired you to think outside the box or think more in the box. I don't care. Hopefully I'm just happy to express myself, and thank you for watching it. And if you have any questions, please leave a comment, and I'll make more videos on my mind. All right, guys, love you. Have a great day.